Trauma fragments the parts of our true self. It sticks to us and gets held in the body, the heart, the mind, and the gut. Today I'm talking about heart consciousness or coherence as it relates to healing and integrating these parts back into ourselves. Trauma affects all of the parts, especially the main centers and nerves. Trauma distorts our core beliefs and perceptions in general and in the nervous system. It separates us from others and disrupts the whole network of heart, mind, gut. The heart holds its own nervous system, as does the gut-brain connection. But this month I'm talking about heart consciousness. I'm sure you've heard of perception is reality. Transforming our perceptions of ourselves, others, and the world around us is partly how we evolve spiritually. The other part is done by transforming the nervous system, which feeds off of the change of vibration that happens when we choose differently. We choose to feel what we want before we see it. Some call this optimistic or positive thinking. Others call it believing it before you see it, calling in our desires instead of waiting for life to happen to us. Masters of destiny know that they're the designers of their life, and they have to design their life rather than taking it by default. And that means taking responsibility for our vibration. Boundaries are a big part of this. Healing our anxious attachment, codependency, and forgiveness is also a big part of the rewrite program, because we can't integrate parts of ourselves until we can really get that self-compassion and inner critic dealt with. Integration of these fragmented parts is how we heal, by taking action, taking radical responsibility, tightening our circle of trust and safety. Awareness is the first step on this path. And it's not what happens to us, but how we perceive it. So I'm not referring to religious or spiritual bypassing here. That's called denial. This is the opposite of that. This is radical acceptance, putting self first, because it's what creates the separation from our true self, or denial of self, self-sabotage, self-hatred, shame. These are all toxic byproducts of trauma that shapes our nervous system. This is something that our ancestors have been traveling through space and time across generations that have affected us. And this is how interconnected we are, and the importance of doing our work to evolve consciously by healing the wounds that hold us back, and how that affects the collective. Shame is the toxic root that needs to be pulled out from the great unwinding of healing complex trauma. Shame happens when our needs weren't met in childhood, and we oftentimes end up internalizing our parents' failure as a fault of our own. Deeply rooted shame developing our identities, we unconsciously attempt to overcome these feelings of powerlessness or helplessness by believing in the possibility of love and connection if we only change who we are. And this leads to a lifetime of people-pleasing, codependent self-sacrifice, and insecure attachment in relationships. There is a way out, and that is by healing this harsh inner critic. These habitual behaviors in the shame game can keep us feeling immobilized and frozen, criticizing ourselves with self-doubt and playing small, hiding out and withdrawing ourselves from social interactions, feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Self-sabotaging behaviors like people-pleasing and other addictive behaviors like substance dependence, chronic fear of rejection, low self-esteem, and deep feelings of inadequacy are all a part of healing toxic shame. But when we begin to witness shame's influence on their inner dialogue, we can change it, and we can refocus our attention on the thoughts that serve us, and begin to notice where and when and who triggers these feelings of shame, and create new neural pathways that encourage and enable us to break the cycle of shame.